Hey guys, we are going to be starting a new project. So I will start us off by setting up our project, but it is the beginning of the modular set pieces project, and it'll be part one where we have to model the security cam. So to start us off, we'll start new. I've already set my location, so I'm just going to add in my name and then security cam project and hit accept. Then we are, for those that want to see the actual project folder itself, it's got all these different folders right here, but the main thing is the workspace, the scenes folder, and everything else. I'm just going to drag that back really quick. That way it's out of our way. Now, let's see here. So let us get into the beginning of our modeling. So I'm gonna go grab us a fresh cube to start us off, right? Just a quick refresher, right? Alt left click rotates us or orbits around. Middle mouse will pan us, and right mouse click will zoom us in and out. For the perspective view, you would alt middle mouse to pan around your orthographic views, right? So spacebar brings us to the orthographic views. I'm going to hit 4 to put them into wireframe. Then I am going to set our scale for our cube. So to start us off, we want to scale it 10 on the X and Y to give it a nice size that way, and then give it a length of 18 centimeters, right? Since we are working in centimeters. I've detached my modeling toolkit. You can always grab this thing and rearrange it around just as a refresher. Then it's a little more a pain to reattach, but once I get it there, you can turn on and off your outliner over here, and then you can also change from object mode to sub-object mode over here. You can also use the hotkeys F8 through 11, technically 12 if you include the UVs, but we will be looking at that when we get to the UV video. So to start us off, I am going to go to edge mode. So I like to switch by using the marking menu. So I right click and hold, go to edges, right? So you've got your edges, and then you've got your vertices, and then you've got your faces, which are the polygon faces. So start us off, we're going to select all 4 edges on the going around the sides of our cube here, because we want to add some more polygons to these edges to make them round. So we're going to bevel it. So I'll hit Control B to add 3 segments, and we want to have it at 0.036. All right, whoa, way too little. I want, sorry, 0.36. There we go. That's better. You might see this smoothing angle thing here. You don't have to worry if you don't have it. All you have to do is check it. In fact, I'll uncheck mine currently, so that way no one gets confused for it. You don't really need to worry about it just yet. So, but it just helps smooth the bevels a little more, especially if you wanted to do what would be eventually known as the weighted normals. But that's a more advanced topic to look into once you get used to modeling. So, getting off topic here. Sorry about that, guys. So, let's see here. Now, after beveling, we technically made what's called in the industry an engon, right? So an engon being a polygon face that has more than 4 sides to it, right? You want to technically try to model away from that. Can you leave them for low poly stuff maybe, but ultimately, right, when you're doing like really high quality stuff or things that you're going to be deformed, animated, or subdivided, which subdividing is when we add more polygons, right, or the smoothing. So if I hit 3, see how it looks all weird and wonky, right? Or if you're going to be using any form of like tessellation, which is where you're trying to add extra height to it, things like that, you'll get problems. Along with shading can also be a problem in the game engine, right? Because this is going to randomly triangulate at render time. it might not give you the desired result. But in our case, I'm going to use this currently on the front, and we'll fix the back later when we make the handle. So to start off, I'm going to hit Control E to extrude to make some more polygons, but I'm going to go right to the scale tool and scale it down some. Just a little bit. Actually, I might go a little more to give it a little more thicker of an outer shell, or an inner shell, sorry, since this is where it is. Then I'm going to scale it a little bit on the x-axis as well, just to give us a little more room to make it a little more rounded on this outside to mimic a more camera-like shape. Now, I'm going to delete this face and turn on my multi-cut. You can find that multi-cut under the mesh tools, right? Multi-cut there. It's also up here in the shelf, along with here. But the shortcut key is Control, Shift, and X. Now, with the multi-cut tool, I can obviously cut from vertex to vertex or add them in manually. If I hold Shift, it'll snap to the 50% mark. And once I start left-clicking and dragging, it'll allow me to snap in 10-degree increment while holding Shift. But if I hold down the Control key, you can add what's called a edge loop, right? Edge loops will stop when you hit a triangle or an egg-on, but in our case, we're going to be adding one in the middle on this side. But before I do that, I am going to turn on the object symmetry, so that way anything I do to the left side will happen to the right side, right? Since we're on the x-axis here, and then back and forth, it mirrors back. You can turn it on over here in the modeling toolkit as well, or in the status line there. So I'm going to hold down the Control key, and you can hold Shift to snap it and left click to add a line, but I'm also going to use the Control and middle mouse to add it quickly in between, right? It'll put a line right down the center. So I'm going to hit Q to turn off my tool, go to edges. Well, I was already in edge mode. Then I'll just double click this line, which will select this one, and that's the left and right side. We're going to give it a quick bevel with an extra segment. I'm not going to change the fraction because we need to go to vertex mode. Now, I like working with all 4 panes when I can, especially since it'll be easier to select these vertexes here. In fact, I feel like I might, actually I'm going to turn on soft selection a little, but I'm going to open up the settings here, make sure we're on surface, reselect them, then hit hold B and use the middle mouse to drag out just a little bit. Then I can bad idea. So I was just trying to cheese it a little, but I'm going to slightly move it in a little, deselect those ones, then select these ones, move them in. Then you can hold Control and deselect them one at a time, and then you'd be left with the last one, or you could just reselect it just to give us a nice round circle. Or not round circle, but rounded sides, right? We're going to add the lens in the center afterwards. Now, back to edge mode, I'm going to double click to select this edge. So we need to extrude this guy in. But before we do that, because we're doing the whole object anyway, I'm just going to turn off symmetry. And we're going to hold using the W and R key to switch between move and scale. I'm going to use the shift extrude to basically, so shift extrude this back with the move tool, switch to the scale tool, shift extrude it in, then shift or W, and then we'll shift extrude that back again, roughly around here. I like to see what it looks like with 3, even though we will eventually be fixing it so a little better, but that's ideally what we're looking for. I feel like I went a little too far back with these faces, so I can quickly so select the first face to select the, and then double click the second one and then pull it forward just around here. That's a lot better. Right. Now I can go to object mode. You'll see inside here, by the looks of it, our edges are set to hard, which gives us this faceting look, right? Which isn't ideally what we want. If you wanted to see them, go up to So when I select them right there, you've got regular solid lines right now. But you can go up to display and go to polygons and turn on soft hard edges. And you can now see that the soft edges are the dotted lines, right? So some of them are, and then some of them are hard type idea. Ultimately, I could go to edges quickly and just control double click the ones I want to deselect, which is the ones that are running running around the outside here like this, right? I'll even deselect this one, which won't let me anyway. Let's see here, I'm just going to do that and then shift reselect those ones just because faster. So now that we actually have them all selected, I will, you can go up to mesh display, soften edges. Another way is shift right click and go to soften this way. So you go to soften harden edges and then soften edges as well, right? So now I'm going to go to object mode. We're going to create ourselves a new cylinder. The cylinder is going to be rotated 90 degrees on the X so that it's facing forward. We're just going to scale this guy up to fill in the area for the camera lens, right? But we want a little bit of space because it's supposed to be attached on, inside the shell, or the outer shell there. I'm going to have it roughly around, maybe stick out just a little bit, right? And then I'm just going to go to vertexes. And then I'm going to move these back right around here. Go to faces. Oops. Right click and go to faces. I'm going to select and then holding control, drag a selection back over and delete the back face. Another cool way of selecting is if I went to vertex mode, you can hold down the control key and control click like the polygons, or if you were to do the hotkey F10, I believe it is, or 11. It's 11. Or if I go back to, like, if I hit F9, I can go right click or control right click and go to faces and to faces again, and then it'll be the same thing. So what I'm going to do now is hit R and shift extrude in to get the first frame or outer frame, right, or rim. And then I'm going to hit W to go to move, shift move it back, then shift extrude inwards with the scale tool again, and then shift move it back to get like these type of insets there, right? Next, we're going to shift extrude in a little bit, and then hit W because then we'll shift extrude out. Now I'm going to try my best to get it close to the front here. Worst case scenario, I can just hold V and then grab this arrow, grabbing one arrow, then wherever I move my mouse, right, and it'll match up to whatever vertex I'm hovering over. I don't even have to be near the arrow as long as I'm hovering over or close to the vertex I want. Hitting R, I can then shift extrude in again, hit W, shift, oops, going to shift extrude back, and then I'm going to shift extrude in with the scale, move it slightly forward, give it a little more rounded dome shape, all right, just around like this. And then I can grab this vertex, and I probably need to see how this looks. I think I've overextended it. Yeah, way too much. Let's go back here, grab this one. Definitely want to make it a little more subtle, especially for a lens. Shoot. Well, no. Let's see. I'm going to. There. And if I'm also going to do a quick paint on. Deselect these guys. So painting selection is holding tab, right? Will allow you to paint in. If you hover over a selected face, you can deselect. If you're hovering over a non-selected face, you can paint in that, and then shift grow my selection. Then can now, let's just move this back There we go. That's a lot more subtle, especially if I were to shift right click, soften, harden, go to object mode. There we go. That looks a lot better. So now that we've got the lens, let's see here. We want to make before we do that, right, let's bevel the front here. So, and if I hit Control B, it'll single bevel. That's not quite what I want. So when things like this kind of start happening, right, so it was supposed to bevel the edges nicely, it just means that I need to clear the history, right? Clearing the history or deleting the history of an object, it helps reduce the file size, for one, because you're reducing the history of the object. You're also cleaning up the workflow, right? It helps maintaining and clean, efficient workflow while reducing the chances of errors and compilation errors as well. So I'm going to select these guys, right, and hit the delete history. I'm also going to hit the freeze transform because that'll make it even nicer. Now, if I go back and hit Control B, I don't want to do that. I want to make sure I only have the edges, not the other model. And notice how it bevels out nicely, right? So, and then I'll just go to object mode. And now select the outer shell, and I'm going to go to face mode, select my top face, shift double click the second face to do the full loop of faces, and then I'm going to shift right click and do the detach faces. Detach face, or not detach, I want duplicate. Oh, I went to duplicate faces. But it is technically found inside the edit mesh duplicate faces. Now, actually, I'm going to actually give it a little bit of an offset with this. I feel like 0.2, just so that it's a little bigger than the actual inner shell. And then I can come over here and I'm going to scale it along the Z-axis just to make it a little bit longer on both sides. In fact, I'll just even pull it a little bit. No, I don't want to pull it too much. A little back, right? Then I'll go back to edges, Control-Shift-X. I'm going to add one roughly around, see, that's the back of the camera, so I'm going to say right around, if I wanted to, I can change the snapping, but I'm going to not snap it. Let's just put it right here. Hit Q, double click this edge, scale it up uniformly, and something around here, right? And then I'm just going to pull this down best as I can to try to get it flat on the top. Doesn't have to be super perfect. Pretty good, I think. Right. All right. So once we have that, I'm going to add another cut up here, and then we are going to double click on it to select this. Now, we could, cut one like across like this, and I would add it, but I'm going to undo that because I'm going to show you guys when you can technically have the edges here slide along the vertical, or not vertical, the horizontal lines, right? So in order to do that, we're going to change these. You could turn on the transform constraints to edge sliding, or you can hold down the Control-Shift key. Control-Shift key, right? Oh, here, let me actually just reselect this guy again. Holding down the Control-Shift, you'll see the word slide, right? So when I do that now, I can use this. Control-Shift works with the move and also the rotation, and most likely with the scale, but we are going to put it along that type of angle. And then now I have to just select these the front faces and hit the delete key. There we go. So that's looking pretty decent now. So I'm going to also delete these two faces. Oh, wait, no, before I do that, let's turn on the symmetry again. Because we want to go to world, object X, and then hit the delete key. Right, so we can see that I've deleted both of those. I'm also going to come in here, Control-Shift-X, and I'm going to add a cut right here and delete this small little face that I just added. just to give us a nice little space there, so that it splits our outer shell nice and evenly. Well, last but least, I'm gonna add another edge right around probably 60 marker. Yep. And then I'll add a cut down the middle. Go to edges, grab this guy, and I'm just gonna bevel it. Now, in order to bevel this one, I need it at 0.32. And I'm going to go to faces and select this one and delete it. Then I'm going to go to object mode, turn off my symmetry, actually I'm going to delete history first, and hit Control E. And I'm going to give it a little, about, say 0.5. 0.5 is a good thickness for it. Right? Makes it look like a nice shell. Go to object mode. Pretty sweet. All right. So, actually, I'll select everything. Holding the hotkeys Alt, Shift, and D will also delete all the history and all the objects. So, now, I'm going to start off with our actual handle, which will be the pivot point for our main camera piece here. So, I'm going to grab a cube, hit W, move it back. I'm going to scale it up, but keep it inside maybe the grid lines here. Then I'm going to make it roughly, probably about that thick, right? Oh, excuse me, sorry. Let's see, that thick and maybe this long. I'm going to make sure that I'm close to the end here, just because then I'll get the maximum distance out this way. I'm going to add a line down the center. I'm going to deviate a little from the book here, and actually make it nice, easy. It also makes it easier for fixing the angon that we have at the end. But I'm going to add a bevel with 2 segments. Right, that way we've got a nice curve on the back here. You can come back here and go to vertexes if you wanted, and you could technically use W to pull it back a little more if you wanted, or you could undo that and just scale this a little bit, just like that. All right, give it a little more rounded shape at the end. But the main thing we want to select is our inner shell and our outer shell. I'm going to Control 1 so that we isolate it. I'm going to make sure we're back in the center here. Delete and freeze and transforms on this guy. Grab both of these guys, and we're going to use a Boolean tool to join these. So if I hit the Boolean tool up here, actually, I'm going to show you the menu first, right? Menu, Boolean. So you've got union, which is what we want, which is not the one by default. By default, the one over there on the shelf is actually set to A minus B. So your first object minus the second object you selected, right? Then you have B minus A, the intersection. You could also have them slice each other apart. But in the main one, we want union for this case. Typically, this is where you also end up a lot of the times making other engons when you Boolean like this. This is a live Boolean, so you can technically come in here, grab like this shape here, and move it around, and it will change with it. But in our case, this is already at the shape that we kind of need, so I'm going to delete the history, which will get rid of the other 2 objects. So if I delete the history, it'll finalize everything. All right, so that leaves us with cleaning up a little bit of engons, 2 engons. Now for cleaning these up, right, sometimes, right, some people might have a hard time clicking on the vertex, going from vertex to the vertex. You can left click and drag. So left click and hold, right, and then you can drag it along the edge, and then it'll stop when you get to a vertex, right? So if I click and drag along a vertex till I hit the vertex there, and then right click, right? Now I've got that there, right? And then I can keep going around. So I'm going to probably want this one, and then I am going to have a triangle here, which is perfectly fine because I know this isn't getting deformed. We are eventually going to be animating the camera, but perfectly fine here with this. let's see here. I'm going to add a line here. So I'm just left clicking, dragging to get to the vertex, left click and drag to get to the vertex, right click to end. And left click and drag, left click and drag, right click to end. I'm gonna left click and drag along this one to here. I'm going to delete that edge in a minute. Here, like, yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, perfect. I'll come back and delete that after I've got all the other edges done. So that way I don't have to go back to tools. Right click, drag, drag. Oops, didn't want there. Left click and drag, left click and drag, and then left click, drag, left click and drag. So left click, drag, drag to the vertex and drag, click and drag to the vertex, and right click, drag to the vertex. There we go. Right click. Now I'm in edge mode. So we've got, 3 triangles. 1, 2, 4 triangles, sorry. And then I also have to delete this edge here to make a nice quad there. Perfect. So I can also now see how things look if I hit 3, right? This actually looks a lot better than what it was doing. You get a little tearing here because of the way we did this edge. Technically, if you really wanted to, you could make it a triangle, but it doesn't really change too much, right? You're just making sure that it knows that this is the way you're going to triangulate it instead of trying to triangulate from that one to that one. In that case, yeah, I'm just going to make them triangles now. So just picking how it's going to actually render. There we go. Right. Perfect. And if I hit 3 now, get a little weird stretching, but ultimately we're not going to be smoothing or subdividing it. Subdividing it. So now we need to make the actual base to this thing. I'm going to delete the weird perspective camera that I added. To do that, we're going to start with another cube. Hit W, move it up above roughly, start us off, go back to the channel box. Now I'm going to select Control and click both. So select the first one with the left click, Control click the Z so that I can set these guys to 13. I'm going to go to Y and turn this to 8. Right, so we want it to be a height of 8 and a 13 by 13 block. So that way we can grab these edges going around the outside, give them a nice bevel. Now this bevel is going to be a lot softer. We want 3 segments for it still. So left click and drag. You can then type in the numbers is basically 0.62. There we go. Make nice round corners. I'm going to go to face mode, grab the top face, shift right click and go to poke. Depending on how you were doing your game, you may delete this face at the top, especially if you had it in the wall type idea. But if you plan on breaking your camera apart and having it so the player can see the bottom part here, it might be worth leaving so that you can actually texture. Because there's no sense having geometry that isn't going to get rendered and save on resources. So let us now grab this face here, shift extrude it in with the scale, using the W key to move it down a little like that. I'm going to then shift extrude again a little bit more closer to this, right around here. Rounded like that. Go to my edges. I'm going to grab this edge here and give it a single bevel with a smaller fraction just to tidy it up a little more. There we go. I'm going to grab this face here. I'm going to just delete it, right? Just easier this way. Then I'm going to go to vertex. What I'm going to do is, so there's a button right here called circularize, which will circularize this, or try to circularize it as best as it can. You can shift right click and then also find circularize components, right? Since you can do it with faces and vertexes as well. You can also find it in the edit mesh, circularize right there, right? So what we're going to do is, well, I'm going to shift right click and grab it now since I already did it that way. Now, I'm going to look at the bottom down here and see, well, that doesn't look very, very good either, right? Because it's twisted it off to the side. So I'm going to use the twist functionality. I won't use control, but I want to go basically try to get it as close as I can to kind of see it down here, right? Where the lines kind of at least look like they're hovering over each top of each other from the side view. Especially if I were to extrude down, right? There's barely, you can barely see it, but if you really wanted to, right, you would have to go like faces, double select this thing. Then you'd have to go, let's see here. No, I want the top view, right? And then you would zoom in here. I would then try to best to rotate it that way. Now, I'm not going to be too worried about that. I'm just going to go back to edges. And I'm going to come down here, roughly around here. In fact, I'm actually going to move this back a little. So it's a little more like that. Right, there we go. Yeah. Might move it down just a little as well. There. Then I'm going to shift extrude down. Right. Gonna fix that in a minute. In fact, yeah, let's do that now. No, I'm gonna do the bottom first, actually. So I'm gonna shift extrude. Not that far in, but then I'm gonna move it down. And I'm just gonna do mesh and fill hole, because I want to do the polygons a little different for this, right? Because I need to cut a hole going this way to allow our handle to rotate in between it, right? So that our camera can have a bit of a pitch to it, right? So, and then this guy's very simple. We just keep adding, oops, we can drag up like this. That's still technically quad. So, perfect. Nice clean topology. And I had 3. It smooths pretty nicely, but we're going to ruin that in a minute anyway. So, all right. So I'm going to go to edges, grab this edge, hit W, hold down V. I'm going to snap it. Now, holding V is snap to point, right? So I'm holding down V at the same time. Now, you could, if you grab the circle, that's going to go all over the place, right? So while holding V, I like to only use one arrow at a time. It allows you to snap to very specific vertexes, especially since you don't have to have your mouse near the gizmo. You can drag it to whatever vertex you need, and it works nicely. Now that I've kind of lined those guys up, though, I am seeing a bit of a problem that I want to also, it's a little too thick. Now, I feel like for this type of thing, you'd want it probably that thick. But it's like a hard, tough call to kind of make, right? But you could technically come over here, go to vertexes, and then I'm just going to note, not vertexes for that one, sorry, this one. There we go. Select these guys. I'm going to go here, except for deselect the center pivot. There we go. There. Then I can scale these guys on one axis. There we go. Oh. Don't want that. There. Just be careful, you might accidentally deselect something you didn't want to deselect. I'm just going to scale them out just to be a little bit Actually, you know what? I'm going to hold the Control Shift and then slide them out. There we go. That works. There. And that gives me enough space to also still have everything. Yeah, there we go. Thinking there. Perfect. All right. So then I am going to grab these edges here. So all 6. Right. Oh, make sure you don't have any extras. You want only the 3 edges at the top here. Hit W, Shift extrude them down. Then you're going to Control and scale them in. I'm going to go to Object Mode, Control 1 to isolate so you can see them. Go back to edges, which therefore, yeah. So now when I scale on the Y, right, you can see that I've flattened them that way, right? Good way of scaling in. Basically, will flatten anything as long as it's on one axis. Then we can hold down the V key. And I don't think that worked to my advantage still. In fact, let's see here. I'm just going to go faces, grab these faces here. I'm going to turn on object X, and I'm going to R and just scale them on the X axis to make it nice and flat. Don't know why that didn't work, but I'm going to turn it off because it looks like it's broken because of whatever is happening here. I'm going to deselect the other side, scale that there, and still doesn't look like it's there. That's perfectly fine. I can fix that in a minute. I'm just going to go back to edges and do the bridge first, right? And then I'm just going to go vertexes. Target weld. Quickly target weld that guy there. This guy here. Then I'm just going to go faces. Grab these guys. Scale them in on the X side. Push it back out. Not. Go. Target weld. Technically, I could hit 3 to see if it did it, but it doesn't look like it. Worst case scenario, I just select these guys, do a merge, then see how it looks. Actually is a lot better. There we go. Let's see here. Let's see. If I hit Control 1, see what it looks like. Worst case scenario, I just go to faces on this thing. Select these and just scale them a little bit. More. Should have did this in the first place. That's perfect. Now, this is also a little off script, just on the fact that I know for sure when you get to 3D Unity, you want to have this part here disconnected. So I'm going to add what you want with an edge right around here, then one right around here. Grab this edge and uniform scale it in just so that it's a little bit like that. And then I'm going to shift right click and hit the detach component. That way I can now go separate, and they're 2 separate meshes. Pivot points in the same spot, which is perfect. Grab these 2. Shift right click, soften harden edges, soften and harden, right? That way we get semi what we want, except for right here. And probably on the side. That again. I'm gonna hit Q so I don't accidentally scale things, and then shift right click, soften edges. I'll have to go for this one as well. Double click this guy, this one, this one, this one, this one. Get all 8 edges around the corners. Shift right click, soften, just grab everything. I'm going to delete the history, but before I freeze the transforms, I'm going to also find my grid. Grid. There we go. I'm gonna move that back though and then turn it on. There. There we go. It's hidden. You can hide all your grids. Not what I want. Now for the last piece, we also need the switch that will basically allow you to swap like your either your camera on and off, or you could have it for a switch to be like, hey, make it so that you know, it rotates 180 or 90 degrees or so forth, right? Depending on how you wanted to have it. I'm gonna make sure it's at least on the grid. Same time, crash it through there. Control 1, vertexes, this, shift right click, control right click, sorry, 2 faces, delete, because we're not going to see that. And well, I'm going to give mine a nice little bevel because I want to have it look a little more softer. Actually, I'm going to undo that bevel. So I'm going to hit bevel, right? I'm going to go back to that line again, just because this is a little experiment for you guys. You can add on the soft smoothing angle, right? I'm going to decrease this to like 0.2, right? Now, I'm going to max this out at 180, right? So it's going to give like a nice rounding effect, right? So you'll notice when I let go or back away from here, right? See how it kind of looks like a rounder cap, which is kind of nice. So that'd be the same as if I were to quickly just pull up another, just to have it right side by side for you. Right, I'm just gonna go to edges here, bevel this one, but this time I'm going to do 0.2, but I'm going to do like 3 segments, right? And then if I go to object mode and step back, right? I feel like the one that I did with the smoothing angles still looks a little better. But anyway, those are all our pieces. So I'm going to again delete my history, shift P to unparent everything, delete any groups because we want to clean up our scene before we get too far. Now I'm going to grab all these guys, grab this guy and hit P. So I just parented everything to the base. Now, I'm getting a little ahead of myself on that part, but I want to move this right down here. In fact, I should probably hit D, hold V to snap it up to the V to snap to vertices and snap it to the vertices at the top. Tap D to turn it off, and then hold X to re-snap this down here, right? This way, when I bring this into Unity or whatever, it's going to have its pivot point at the base of our camera. All right, I'm going to detach these guys all so that we have everything. I'm going to group everything together. And we can start with the group itself. I'm going to shift click to open it up. We will call this the security cam underscore GRP. And then I'm going to go one piece at a time. So I had the switch first. So let's do that first, right? So security cam switch underscore geo, right? see here. I've got the base, so I'll select the base next. Double click to rename. There we go. Then we can do the. So this is why we detach this here, right? So this is called the security cam underscore yaw handle geo. So the reason why it's in video, like inside the actual game engines, the rotation along, well, in our case, right now it is the y-axis. Technically, it would be the z-axis inside of the game engine. But ultimately, you want to make sure that basically it'll allow our camera to rotate on its 90 degrees or its 180 degrees when we get into the actual editing of it. Did I not rename it? Or I just went back too far. Hit paste that there. Then geo there. All right. Didn't like a space maybe at the end. Just also going to go grab the security camera. Then inner shell. Geo. See here. I use this one here, but I need to go back there. Did I name that? Oh, we're just going to grab the first part and just finish typing it, since that's what I seem to be having the problem with. Base underscore geo, right? And then the last one, I'm going to use this in go underscore outer underscore shell underscore geo, right? There we go. And then I'm also going to save, which I should have done way sooner. Make sure we set it to my ASCII so it's non-compressed version. You can see I'm already navigated there. Worst case scenario, if you want to make sure you're inside your scene folder, you just click the word scene. Didn't I get rid of those? Oh, no, I didn't. Okay. That's fine. So I'm just going to security cam, get rid of the underscore, do .001 dot .ma for their Maya ASCII, and then hit enter, right? This will make it easier for me to go file and increment, which is what we'll do next time when we do the UV. So that way we can have incremental saves. We're going to actually get into some UVing, right? So we're going to be, so UVs are, again, the coordinate system to map 2D textures onto a 3D model. Term UV refers to the axes of 2D texture space, which is defined, which is different from the X, Y, Z axes of the 3D space itself, right? The purpose of the UVs allow us to apply detailed textures like patterns and images to our 3D object. We're going to be bringing them forward to Substance Painter. So we're going to UV the camera here, and then I'm going to also bring in the rest of the modular pieces that you will be texturing with as well. So first things first, let's start with UVing the camera here. Let's see here. So, sorry about that. Let's see. All right. So I'm going to hop over here to the UV editor workspace, right? So in the top right corner, you can use the drop down. You could also technically, if you have multiple monitors, in our case, I'm going to use this one, but you could go up to here to UV editor to get that pop out. I'm going to select all our geometry. You're going to see a whack of stuff happening in here, but that doesn't really matter. In fact, I'm just going to go File, Delete, just because it's all garbage anyway. Let's see here. We're going to, technically you want to create new UV islands anyway. So I'm going to do it one at a time, one piece at a time. I'll start with the inner shell and then work my way there. And you technically could just go camera base and then unfold everything, but I'm going to undo that and do them one at a time. I'm also going to turn off the current checkered flag. To start us off, right, we've got, again, this is called the 0 to 1 space. If we were to zoom, if I turn back on the checkered board, right, you can see that we have like U1 V1, right, 0 0 0 1, right. Now for Substance Painter, it's very crucial that we pack everything inside this 0 to 1 space. Otherwise, it won't work properly when you bring it in there. So, but to start us off, I'm going to grab the inner shell and we're going to just create this. Doesn't mean I can't pack them outside or have them outside right now while we're in the modeling and editing mode. So I'm going to turn off the checkerboard. I'm also going to turn off these other ones, although I am going to go through them quickly, right? So this is the default one where you have like what you can see what you're selected. Now this one here allows you to see if they're facing forward or backwards, or if you're overlapping, right? So red would be overlapping, blue would be facing forward if you had them individually. In fact, I'll wait until we actually get there. Right clicking allows you to have it color based off of when you have different ones. In fact, that's the one I'm going to turn on. Normally gets turned on when you use the UV cut and sew tool. You can get that from the shelf here. You can also get it over here and then go into the tools here. I'm first going to go to edge mode just so that I can easily have that. In edge mode, shift right click. I'm just going to see if I can get it from here as well, but it doesn't look like it. Just more so if you have them selected, you can do them. Sometimes when I select edges, I'll just shift right click over here and go to cut or stitch together depending on what I'm doing. But in our case, we're going to activate the cut and sew because this is a good way to cut up scenes. So I've created a new set of UV islands, as we call this, right? Although technically right now, all I've done is literally take this model and scale it literally flat, right? Basically, we want to cut this thing up to help lay it out flat, as if we were like skinning it to lay it flat. So I'm just going to keep cutting around here. Typically, I like to cut along like hard edges. Let's see here, perfect. All right, so I'm just double clicking on single edges, double clicking on edges that flow along will also cut the entire edge loop, right, as they would call it. Let's see here, I definitely need that one. There we go. There. Right. Substance Painter likes it when you cut along the hard edges anyway. And then I have to pick one of these edges to be the seam for this thing. No. With as long as you've cut these vertical ones, you fine for those. I'm going to cut this one as well, because that one, see how these faces are facing inward, right? Where this one will look nice when I actually do the, so we're going to hit Q now. I'm going to right click, go to UV shells, select all these things. And we're going to open up the unfold tab, right? So you could click the unfold button, or you can hit Control U, which will unfold these things. Now, this is where I'm going to left click on the first the second 3 little squares there, and we can see that they're all blue now, and they are darker blue as well. This allows us to actually lay these out nice and flat, as you can kind of see here, right? See here. Oh, did I cut that one too? So so in our case, right, because the way this one went, I want to actually redo that one so that it's actually something like this, right? So that was quickly creating what's called a normal base, which is based off of the way the polygon face is facing, right? So if I were to grab like these faces, I could technically redo this one here, right, if I wanted to, and be like normal base, and then it actually looks a little cleaner. So I'm going to leave it like that, just because I can. In fact, I'm going to grab this island and do the same, because that also just automatically made it nice. Obviously, I'm going to have to fix the scaling. Now this guy, I'm going to straighten up. Actually, I'm going to have it turn this way, right? That way it's facing similar. Now, oh, I see what happened. Right, so, oh, stitch together. Ooh. Oh, I see. Let's make sure we shift right click and cut that. UV shells here. I'm going to unfold that one. In fact, I'm just going to normalize it. That way I can go back here and then restitch that one together. Restitch those together, right? That's just fixing up my little blunder there. And then if I now hit the unfold, there we go. That's a lot better. Scale that one down. So same keys, W for move, R for scale, mouse wheel to zoom out, middle mouse or alt middle mouse to pan, right? Just a refresher since we did them with the other one. I'm also going to open up the transform. We did it with the dice, but we'll keep moving forward. Let's see here. So I'm going to rotate this here. Technically, do like that. Right. There. Try to straighten them as best as I can. Oh, what happened here? Let's unfold that one. Oh. I see what it is. Cut. UV shell. There we go. That looks a lot better. Right. I'm just going to do a normal base on that one. Same for this one. There. Nice. Nice straight pieces. Especially for doing some texturing work is always nice. In fact, I'm probably going to hit the straighten and then unfold. We'll do the same for this one. So click straighten and then unfold, right? So just to help straighten up some of these UVs. So I would consider this one done. You can see it's all nice and blue. The other one, good one to check out is whether it is stretching. Now, we notice here we do have some pinching or stretching and pinching, right? That's what we see what's going on here. Right, if I hit unfold and optimize, to see why is that. Literally cut that out. So I'm trying to figure out. So just to kind of show you right here, I'm going to go to UVs, grab this guy here, move it closer, right? You're going to see it's going to get really red. In fact, let's just grab a bunch of these. I'm going to scale them in, and then you've got it's getting redder, right? Meaning that it's getting pinched. If I scale them out, they're going to get blue, and that means it's stretching, right? You're going to get some stretching regardless, right? And it's about picking your battles kind of with your UVs to see which ones are stretching and which ones aren't. This one's unfold and optimized. I just do a normal base. Normal base. Ooh. Uniform scale it. Anyway. Oh, make sure. I'm going to turn that one off. There we go. But while I'm here, let's talk about... I'm going to turn on the checker flag. May as well do this now. Oh, no, I'll save it to the end. We'll get all the pieces done first. So I'm going to do the cylinder next, because that seems like more logical. All right. So I'm going to do another camera base. Control 1, do edges. So I'm going to pick... So for this guy, I'm going to turn off the pinching right now. I'm going to left click that, right? So I'm going to select the outer edge of this bevel, right? And then I'm going to grab the outer one of this bevel, right? Because all these faces technically could almost be considered facing forward, right? So if I were to shift right click over here, I can do cut. I'm also going to cut the one in here, here. So shift cut. Then I'm also going to do these ones. Oops. I'm gonna just cut these ones just because I feel like I'll get a better result. So I'm just going to cut those ones. Now, ultimately you would want to pick an area that would least be seen. Typically the camera would be above the player, so I'm gonna probably do the lower ones. And I'm also going to do these edges here and shift cut those, right? So that's going to be my seams, right? So I've created a new set of islands, or UVs, and then I'm going to hit the unfold. And I'm going to grab... Actually, I'm just going to hit Control L, which is actually layout really fast, and see what I get. I like that. So we got some straight ones. We've got these are the actual other ones. Oh, except for obviously this guy, I forgot to do the most important thing. Cut down here on the bottom for the seam, and then I need to re-unfold this guy. There we go. That's a lot better. There we go. All right, so all I'm doing is picking like the hard edges and then where I want my seams on the like the rounder areas. So when they do them, so think of like a seam on a pair of pants or like something along those lines, right? Where you're cutting it up, and then if you had like a tieable texture, it might not work depending on where you are. But with substance, you can usually hide things a lot easier. But you typically want to usually leave your seams in places that people won't notice. So we've done the shell and the lens for this guy up here. Again, I'm just going to do a camera base, edges. In fact, I will cut here, shift right click cut. And then I feel like this one right here would probably be the best. It's at the back. It all depends on how you have it facing the player, but ultimately that'll do, right? There. All right, so oops, I'm gonna hit Q to make sure we're there. Grab the outer shell, Control 1, so it's by itself. I'm going to give it another new camera base, right? Oops, object, camera base. Oh, I'm isolated over here. So if you hit one over here, you'll see it has a red circle there. That just means you're in isolation mode. All right. So I'm going to want to go back to edge mode and click off here, do the interactive cut and sew. In fact, I'll even right click over here. You can already see we have two different UV islands because we have the two different guys there. So I'm just going to double click these guys to start cutting. Now you'll also notice that I'm getting these white lines. These are also representing cut. You won't see them if you have this button here turned off, or is it this one? Oh, that's the grid there. This one. That made them thicker. There you go. If you want them to have a bit thicker. Oh, I see. It's only hiding them there. But anyway, I'm just going to keep double clicking. In fact, I don't need to hit shift. I just need to double click. It's just a habit of mine. For like selecting edges, right? Or especially loop edges like that, right? And then we just double click that one there. Let's see here. Inside edge there. I'm gonna come back to, you know what, we're already, no, I'm just gonna keep going. There we go, we got 1 separated there, 2 separated, 3, and 4, there. Oh, I forgot the box, there we go. Let's see here, if I, there we are. In different islands now. Let's see here. I also want to grab this little edge in there. Make sure you grab it also on this side as well, right? Because that's a hard edge. If you wanted to, you could actually use this as a good excuse to go up to display, polygons, and actually go soften hard edges. That way you can just click on the hard edges, right? And then split them up that way into the specific islands. If you feel like you wanted to, you could even hit Q, right? Another acceptable way is also just doing a quick normal base. I'm just going to keep doing it this way. 1, 2, 3, right? Based off of, you know, as long as the faces are all facing the same way, you could get away with it, unless you're trying to actually separate them, right? Then I can hit Control U to unfold. Try that again. Control U. There we go. Hey. While I'm at it, I'm just going to hit Control L just to quickly load these guys together so that I can see what we've got, and I'll turn off this. What do we got going on over here? Oh. What? Do I have Beyond? No. Let's see. On. Oh, I'm gonna turn this off. Ah, that's what it is. No wonder why it's driving me insane. All right. Why is this one super long? What did I do wrong? Oh, I see what I did wrong. Missed this one. This is also where you're gonna find like where you might have over like double extruded, faces not working out, things like that, non-manifold geometry, things like that. I'm gonna reselect these guys and hit Control L just to repack them in there. What did I not? Control L. There we go. It's thinking now. There. And then I obviously want to make sure I have this facing the same way. These guys can also both turn 90 degrees. And we'll just do that for right now. Having them overlap is perfectly fine for right now anyway. We'll be fixing the size anyway a bit later. So, moving along to the axis, the y-axis. I'm going to, let's use a cylinder projection this time. There we go. That kind of gave us what I want, but now I just need to go to faces and grab the other faces that I have here that are not quite a cylinder, right? So this guy can move off here. I grab these 3, making sure you deselect those, the other ones, right? And then I'll grab these 3, right? Creating new. So when you hit the create, it deletes the old ones anyway, so you don't have to delete them, just as a like kind of a thing, right? So that way, whenever you hit the create, it creates a brand new set of islands. I'm going to grab these ones, and because this one's also facing the same way, I can also grab them, right? Ideally, you're looking for roughly about a 30-degree angle to kind of stop where you start to think things through. And as you can see, that actually worked out. Now, that also only worked out because our cylinder is also the right way up. If for whatever reason, when you do a cylinder projection, so I'm just going to go to UV shells like this, right? Or not camera. I'm going to do a cylinder again, but if you need to rotate it, you'd have to click this T here, and then left click on this, just left click and let go so you could get the rotation gizmo, right? And you can kind of see this little like outline like shape around here, right? And then you would have to rotate this thing. See, it's a little more visible now, right? Where it's like part of a cylinder. I'm going to undo that because ideally this was perfect the way it was. In fact, you can easily also check with this here. There we go. That looks pretty good too, right? In fact, if I were to select all these guys, right, you can see they're all nice and white, and all that's left now is the top piece here. So again, I'm going to start us off by actually creating another new set of UVs for it with a quick camera base. And then I'm going to go to edges. And we're just going to use the interactive cut and sew. And double click that one. I'm going to cut it here just because I don't feel like it would be good that way. And then I want to choose the one in the back here just for my edges. And then I can then go Q, UV shells, Control U to unfold, which is ideally what I wanted it to be. And now I can also grab this guy, do a normal base to make sure it's nice the way I wanted it rotated. I can hit straighten and unfold, which will fix this one, and we're good there. All right, so now we've got all those guys. We want to take a look at what this looks like now. So I'm going to turn off the colors and all that, bring it back here just to look at this, and we're going to turn on this checker flag. You're going to notice that everything doesn't have a very similar checker pattern to it, right? This is what we call texel density. Texel density refers to the number of pixels pixels per unit, right? So in our case, Maya uses centimeters, right? So it's however many pixels per unit in centimeters, right? Based off of the size of the mesh, right? The purpose or the goal of texel density is to make sure that we have a consistent texel density basically shared throughout the whole texture pack or map that we're making with our UVs, right? So the surface of our model, right? You want to have the same resolution across the entire model so that it doesn't look pixelated in one area and then super detailed in another, right? So you're like, if you had like a wood thing, right? Like a wood plank, right? If one like the sides were all nice and super texture detailed, you could get in and see like the finer grain. But then for some reason, the end pieces were like super, like pixelated. You would find it looking funny inside the game, right? So in order to ensure that we have texel density across the board, right? So why is it important, right? It's visually consistent. The visual consistency for the texel density ensures that all parts of your model have uniform texture details, and it also enhances the overall visual quality. It's optimizing the texture, right, to help optimize the memory usage and avoid unnecessary high-resolution textures on less important parts of the models. And then you've also got being professional, right, because essentially for high-quality asset creation, especially in game development and film, there is a varying texture density can be distracting or unprofessional, right? Especially, you've probably seen it in a few games, right, where you can actually see the pixels of something, and then other things are like, super detailed. So something to consider there. So, the book wants us to they give us a good textile density to set this thing. It's all, the actual textile density properties is actually found in the transform section inside the modeling here. They have this right here, this little section here. If I close the transform really quick and reopen it, oops, didn't mean to turn that there. Reopen it, right? What I'm going to do is, I need to find, there it is. So for 512, yeah, we want, oh, except for I have to change this to 16, right? So they want, for 512, they want to have 3.1016 pixels per centimeter, right? If I hit the word set, you're going to see this gets really small. Now, I also don't want to have to go ahead and reorganize all these pieces all over the place. So we're going to look at the layout button. I'm going to shift click it and go back to options. Now I've got it set up for like a 2K texture, but I want to reset this and set it for a 512 texture. All right, so 512. Right, that's a good texture size. Textures usually come in square resolution, right? So 512, 1024, 2048, right? So you know your 128 and so forth for 496, right? Those are all like different ones. In our case, we're doing a 512 square texture. I'm gonna do a padding of like 6 for the overall thing, and then let's do 6. Yeah, I'm gonna half it because I would do 16 for like 1K and up, right? So that you get 16 pixels of padding, right? So shell padding is per the individual shells, right? So each shell is a different section or island, as we would call it, right? I'm going to turn off the scale mode since we set the textile density. I'm also going to turn off the 3D perspective ratio. But I am going to turn on vertical rotation and rotate shells. Now, you can also have it packet multiple times, right, in iterations, right? So if we did 5 times, it's going to probably give you the best result of those 5. I did pack it for... let's see here. 512. Yeah. No. Why does it look so big? Well. Let's turn that one off. But as you can see right now, right, my textile density on this thing is actually pretty good. Overall, it looks pretty nice. Now, obviously, I've got a little extra playroom on my my actual thing here. Although I am going to say get to make sure that I am at the correct one. Right, we are packing this for a 512. But still, this is kind of like a universal square. So I'm going to actually bring that over here. No, they wanted it for 1K, didn't they? Let me just double check. Oops, didn't mean to move that. Let's see here. I'm pretty sure it was 1K. Let's just hop back in here really quick. Textile density. All right. I see. See. What material was it we were putting on the security cam? I'm pretty sure the security cam we were supposed to do at, let's see, yeah, 1K. So, all right, I'm going to just type in 1024, and then I'm just going to hit the word set. No, I'm going to hit set, and then we're just going to lay this out. except for we're doing 1024 by 1024. And I'm going to do 16 padding because that's what I forgot we were doing a 1K texture. I'm going to hit layout again, except for I will preserve the scaling per shell, preserve that, and uniform, and then I'm just going to hit layout. There we go. Hey, perfect. All right. Definitely a lot better now. And we can now hop into the regular mode again, right? I'm going to tab spacebar. I'm going to delete the history. I'm going to freeze their transforms. We've got it all nicely named and there. We've also set the, if I go to object mode, we've got the pivot point up there in the perfect place, right? It's still 0, 0 area. Although I don't have these ones set where I want them. So I'm going to go back to the side view, hit D, and then holding X, I'm going to just pull this back. Oh, did I rotate it? Oh, I see. I should do one at a time. I'm going to tap D, grab one of these, tab D again, and then hold X to snap it to that grid line. Then I'm going to go to the inner shell, D, and just make sure that it's on the grid as well. That way, the pivot will rotate where I want it nicely. So, all right, now that I've fixed that all up, let's once again freeze the transforms, delete the history, and we have ourselves a really nice camera ready for texturing in Substance Painter. So, now how do we get it to Substance Painter? Well, we're going to want to export this guy as an FBX file. The other file format that is also acceptable for exporting is also OBJ, but for our case, we'll be using FBX since that's more of a standard use. So, file, export selection, and then when you do that, make sure you grab your group. You could technically select the whole thing, but the main thing now is making sure we go over here and turn on the smoothing groups. And then make sure this is also, as well, you won't have this if you're not set to FBX. Then once you have it set to FBX, turn on the smoothing groups. And I'm going to call this SM underscore. And then we're going to say, yeah. You know what? Just grab this really quick. And we'll just paste it right there. Security cam, SM. So SM stands for static mesh, by the way. Typically, that's what we call 3D objects inside the engine. So once again, I'm going to hit the export selection, and there you are. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to also file, save, and increment, since I was bad and didn't save throughout the whole process again. But we at least now have a camera done. So that brings us to the models that you're going to have to download. So you should find on TC Learn a raw model. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to, oh wait, I need to actually navigate to my projects. 1 second here. Maya. If I go to D, no, yeah, D. And then 3D programs, Maya, projects, and then I'm also going to go into the security camera one. I'm going to go here. If you go into the scenes folder, you'll see our export and our 2 scenes. This is where I'm going to drag in a copy of the models, the raw models. So that way we can go to File, New. Let's see. I'm gonna hit Save. Actually, I'm gonna quickly hop back over to there really quick, right? Because it's always good to also check your mesh. Now, I don't suggest doing this by the default. Use your options here, the option box, and making sure you select matching polygons. and then you can turn on your faces with more than 4 sides, lambda faces, or faces that are sharing all the same edges, right? So that, or non-manifold geometry. If I hit the word cleanup, it doesn't select anything, right? A good way of checking out your model. So I'm gonna go File, New, Save. Since I've already exported the camera the way I want it, I'm gonna go grab the raw models. So because I have them inside the thing, you can actually go here probably now, import, and see that they're here already, and just click on this and import. Another way of importing all these guys, I zoom out, there we are. Oh, shoot. I'm going to have to go back to the camera. So, I'll do that after I export these, because we've got to go back and apply a material. If you look at each of these things, certain ones have different materials applied to them, right? So this has wall 4K. If I select this one, you'll see floor 4K and so forth, right? So each of these materials represents a texture set inside of Substance Painter, right? So, and at the same time, ultimately, depending on your computer might only be able to handle certain props, or so many props for baking, right? The more props you have together, the longer the bake time will be inside of Substance Painter. Now, baking is to create different maps that will be used to add extra details to your actual models. So, I just shift click to open all the things, but I don't want to have all of them open. And why is that hidden? Interesting. Let's see here. That one shouldn't have been hitting. Bring them in and make sure you go to display, show, and show all. That way, if there is any hidden models, you'll be able to see them. You may have to go to your perspective camera, go to the attribute, perspective camera, and attribute, there we go, and add an extra 0 to the near clipping, and add an extra 0 for the far clipping, sorry, and an extra 0, make the close clipping 1. That way you don't get the artifacts that you were seeing there. All right. So what I'm going to do is, now that these are all nicely laid out for you, so now they've also nicely organized too, right? So I'm going to use the hero as one export, the door as an export by itself, the modular pieces as an export by itself. If you wanted to, you could break this up into 2 just to be on the safe side. I know my computer can handle this guy pretty decent, so I'm going to do them all as 1, right? So I'm going to go File. So this guy here already is basically sitting on world origin, as you can see right there, right? And I can also technically bring that up to absolute transform with the pivot point for this guy, type 0, 0, and 0. That way they're all there. And then I can go File, Export Selection, right here. And then I'm just going to do SM underscore and paste in that modular pieces, just like that. All right. I'm going to now move these guys to the back because I need this space again. What's this? Oh, that's the camera. I'm going to hit H to hide that because I don't want to accidentally select that. Now, I've got the modular props, modular pieces, sorry. Now let's do the props. I'm going to do them all at 1, so I'm going to type in, again, 0, 0, 0, and 0 and hit enter. It's going to move them into the 0, 0 place so that they'll come in nice and in the center when we bring them to Substance Painter. I'll go File, Export Selection. I'm going to call this SM props, and then I'm going to undo that move, Control Z. Going to grab the hero, I'm going to send this guy, in fact, I'm going to just copy this number and then hit 0 and go File, Export Selection. It's always good to be organized so that you can always come back and redo things if you have to as well. And then this will be the SM_hero. I definitely suggest doing the hero separate than some things because he is pretty intense because he's a whole bunch of round objects, which are really dense. And I can't apparently spell hero. There we go. Gonna paste back that number, grab my door, and I'll copy this one, copy, 0 it out, and I'm just going to file, export, selection, and call this SM_door, and there. And I'm going to then go back up over here, paste in that number again, go back to my props, or not my props, my modular pieces. I'm going to move these over here, and then I'm just going to file save this one here as all props. Or know what? Yeah, all. Oops, caps lock is on. All props, right? Now, I got to go back to fix my security cam, which I goofed up on. Right, so I'm going to go back here, select this guy, assign the material of Lambert. So right-click, get your marking menu, assign new material, and then you want to make sure that you grab a favorite. I'm just going to do Lambert. I'll go to object mode. Right, you want to make sure they all have the same material though, right? So I'm going to make sure that it's not Lambert 1. I'm going to change it to a new Lambert. Doesn't matter about color, but the main thing is we want to call this, no, not pasting that, security, cam, 1 or underscore 1K and hit enter, right? So that way it has the texture set will be named automatically instead of being called subsurface 1 or Lambert 1 when you bring it to Substance Painter. Now this material, right, is based off of laying these also out in the UV to 1 space, right? So if you have like a large object that you want to have 2 textures for, or 2 materials, right? So you would then lay out 2 different sets of UVs, 1 for each material, and you would apply those materials, right? So that's another way of having multiple things, right, with different texture sets that can be in the same scene in Substance Painter, but you would have to make sure that you have the different materials, right? So like if you wanted to get more resolution for whatever reason, you could add that. But in case you would use the texel density usually decided by your team lead or managers to decide how many pixels per unit that you would be doing. So but with that, just to finish off, I will be exporting the camera back out again, which I just have to go to File, make sure you have it selected again, right? File, Export, Selection, and Security Cam, and then that will be it. With that, we can then now bring everything into Substance Painter and move forward from there.